Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special meeting of the Oak Hills Park Authority. Every meeting we do is special, but this is a special meeting. Um, I'm going to kick it off. We have one order of business before us. I'll start by doing attendance, and I will just read off the folks present. There's Joe Andrasco, Chair, Alan Dutton, Vice Chair, Denise Brown, Treasurer, Rich Dellinger, TJ Trimboli, and Robert Stowers. And that makes 6 Oak Hills Park Authority members present. We also have with us Jim Holliday, the General Manager, and Randy Aidfree, our counsel. Um, so with that, I think we can move right into the agenda item that we have for tonight, which is discuss and approve changes to the license agreement with Odines, the food and beverage operator. So Randy, would you like to take us through the issue? Well, issue
Sure.
is strong, but
No,
the item and then the solution.
sure. Thank you. Uh, as you know, we reached an agreement with a license agreement with Odines. That agreement included as the basis for compensating us for our license, a percentage of its sales, and the liquor authority does not consent to us sharing in any form of direct profit associated with liquor sales due to its statutory concerns regarding backers of permittees. Uh, we didn't immediately concede the point with them. Uh, I asked Marshall Odine to arrange a meeting between me and them. I also communicated directly with them. They ended up telling Marshall that they didn't care, that it was obvious that we are not a backer and could not be a backer and would not be a backer. They still felt their principle was they couldn't allow this percentage to exist. So, having learned about this, Marshall proposed a possible solution, which would be to restrict the percentages uh, to food and other non-liquor income, and that generated this concept of increased percentages to match the offset. So, uh, in order to get the ball rolling for this discussion, I proposed some amendments that would direct the first approach, meaning that we would take a higher percentage of his food sales. So that required only a very small number of changes. And if you're able to look at the Word document you were circulated by Jim, the first of these is in paragraph 3, where the term gross sales had included all forms of revenue. Instead, that was amended. First, the words gross sales were put into quotes so that this would become a term associated with the rest of the contract. So quotes were added, and gross sales mean net, total gross sales net of taxes and gratuities, exclusive of the sale of liquor. So that's the language that the state regulators wanted in this contract. So I also, just to prevent confusion, propose the deletion in the next sentence where it says, with the sole exception of beer cart sales, which shall not be included. I just omitted those words. Uh, so uh, we won't be capturing any revenue from the beer cart since it's liquor revenue. So I just took that paragraph out as not relevant at this juncture. Otherwise, it's the same until the final sentence in this paragraph, where it says, in addition to any separate food and beverage sale, I removed this to say, in addition to any separate food sale under any catering or similar agreement. So that's the changes to paragraph 3 that address the percentages, what a gross sale is.
Mhm.
So Randy, just clear, the final one I looked at did have with the sole exception of beer cart sales, which shall not be included. That comes out. Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
Got it.
In other
Okay,
words,
so
yeah, it's a deletion that didn't show up on your version for some reason.
correct. So that will come out. Understood.
It comes out. Yep.
Got it. We weren't getting it anyway, so it's
Yeah.
nothing different.
It
to
just
what we
comes
said.
out. It comes out because it's confusing since we're not attempting to obtain any liquor revenue.
Got it. So Jim, you got that right?
I do.
All right. And then Joe had asked me in emails whether we should have a sentence or something in here that says we will revisit percentages I guess at the end of an annual season or at the end of
Mhm.
a golf season, something like that. And there's absolutely nothing the matter with putting that in here. And I'm happy to add it. That's all it would take is a simple sentence. You can put it in Schedule A. I'm happy to include it. It's not necessary because either party can opt out of this agreement with 60 days of notice. So because of the ability to do that, if you're unhappy with the way the revenue is shared, you can simply cancel the agreement. So you're always in a position to renegotiate all of these percentages, depending on whether you think it's equitable to the authority. But nevertheless, it would be perfectly appropriate to say in here that these percentages will be revisited. So then Jim prepared the percentages and the monthly fees that are in Schedule A. I didn't attempt to change those. And I did change the wording. It doesn't look like you have this copy either. So Schedule A is headed fixed monthly fee, security deposit, and percentages of gross revenue currently. So my proposed change is that it will say percentages of gross sales.
It does
So-
say that.
Yeah, we have
I have
that.
that.
All right.
So we have a separate Schedule A
yeah.
document, which must reflect your changes, but not in markup.
Okay. And then when it comes to the percentages, I heard Joe describe what he feels the percentages ought to be. And that's why we're having this meeting, because all of this wording is not absolutely magical, and the percentages are not magical either. And so you should come to an agreement as an authority as to what those should be. But it is in this paragraph, in this schedule, that I would add the sentence that these percentages shall be subject to review. And I think you should just tell me when. So is it going to be at the end of the annual term? Is it going to be March or February or January? So we should probably pick a month.
Yeah. So let's discuss a little bit. I like the idea of having a structured meeting that everyone expects to happen rather than a notification of displeasure and a call to a meeting. I think it just creates the expectation that this conversation is going to happen rather than kind of an emergency. That just seems like a more calm pace to the entire thing.
So if we add a section C to Schedule A, headed annual review.
Sure.
So just one quick thing, if I may. So we need to get the numbers So the date or month, obviously, we're looking, from April 1st, 24 to March 31st. So March 31st to 25 is actually the end of the first year. So whatever those numbers are kind of in and real, it would make sense to have that meeting after those numbers are available. So April would be probably the best time, I think, to do it, depending when.
I would say there's someone I work with who says I would say that slightly differently. And I would say the best time might be going into the not busy season, winter, because if this triggers a conversation that is not resolvable on the matter of license fee, that would not put us in the position of it's April and we just got 60 days notice or 90 days notice because they don't like our revenue proposal and we can't come to terms. That would put us, if we do this in October, again, we don't have a full season under our belt in the first year, but we've got the core of the season. And that would put us in a position of 90 days expiring November, December, January, which we've shown is a reasonable time to be able to move into, well, it would be better timing than April to be changing. Not
So
that this is a worst case scenario planning, but I think that timing would make more sense.
do you want to do it after 6 months? So you're
Well,
talking
that would be the
June,
first
July,
time.
August, September. If you're talking October, we're talking only 6 months into a fiscal year. Is that? I
I'm
know that
very
most of our
happy.
revenue is there. I just
I'm
wonder.
very happy to do it 6 months in because those are the core months of sales, which would give us the bulk of the read on their revenue and the revenue split. And that's only the first time. The next time it would straddle 2 fiscal years and be a full year, and every time thereafter.
So you're suggesting the review at the end of October? Is what your suggestion is for the first year?
And we could place it into November so that we actually have October financials, and that would be the 6 months, the half fiscal year. I think that would make that's what resonates to me, but happy to hear other thoughts.
But you're just thinking of that for the first year, and then would we follow that schedule every year, or then would we be moved into a different month?
No, the wording should be every November.
Okay.
Sounds reasonable to me. I like the idea of doing it earlier. I like the idea of giving us and them time in case it's not working out. And after the first year, it may not be that it's not as critical as it will be the second or third year. So we'll have more information by the time the numbers are, and we can adjust. And we can adjust if we don't do it right. The first year, we have the second and third year to make further adjustments.
And reiterate, this is worst case scenario planning.
Yeah.
Everything we've seen so far, this does not seem like a likelihood that we would need to go down that worst case path. But if it ever did happen, we should try to make it as palatable as possible.
So you'd be missing out on any revenue in November and December if they were to have book any Christmas parties and banquets and stuff like that. December might maybe a busy month for them on the private party scene. I agree. January, February, and March is not that good, but they would be bringing in revenue in April and May of the coming year. So we would miss out on that. So you miss out on Christmas parties and you miss out on revenue in April and May because was our fiscal year end in June? No, I'm sorry. My apologies. This agreement is till March. Duh. Yeah. Sorry, I'm talking about fiscal.
Ends in March, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Joe. You're right.
No,
so the only thing you're missing out on would be possible December revenue, which may or not be substantial. Probably not this first year for them.
Right. And remember, the goal of this is to understand the mix of food and beverage. Food versus food, non-alcohol versus alcohol.
I would say to you, in my 40 years experience in working with total food and beverage revenue, what's the split between food and beverage? Each place is different, because if you have a place where you're doing a lot of banquet business, your beverage revenue is going to go up. A traditional split is about 70-30 in a place that does a certain amount of private parties. But I'm okay with a 60-40 to start with, I think, because I think that's realistic. But it's a tough call, to be honest with you. I'm okay with it, Joe.
November.
Yeah, as long as they will be. Probably.
Yeah.
Not why not.
Well, yeah, I
Any
guess
other?
we have to make sure that they would be okay with it too. Obviously, they would have to
A
agree.
bit, yeah, naturally, they're going to have to execute the revised agreement as well. I think Jim, Alan, you would both attest. All the communications thus far have indicated a very open willingness to participate, and so
Yeah.
it was not even a thought in my mind that they wouldn't welcome an annual meeting. But yes, naturally, they'll have to agree with it.
So here's the wording I've come up with. The percentages of gross sales as established herein shall be subject to review by the parties hereto in November of each year of the license.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I mean, do you need to put starting this current year?
I don't think so. This is a year of the license, 2024, right?
Yes.
And the idea behind it is we want to get the same amount of revenue that we had under the original agreement. It's just we need to protect ourselves on the 60-40 or percentage split, just to make sure it's not in our favor or in their favor.
Yeah.
And I think we can make clear that that's the object of this.
Yeah, not to increase the amount of money that we get, just to keep it equitable, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So that nuance, I think, is adequately resolved with that language. The other nuance that I wanted to go through is the actual percentages. So assuming a 60-40 split, as we all know, the structure of this is a portion of the license fee is a fixed monthly amount, which escalates after year one. And the other portion of the license fee is this percentage of gross sales. Now that we built a expectation of license fees for each year based on a revenue estimation. And we came to percentages of based on total revenue inclusive of liquor of 3%, 4%, and 5%. 3% in year one, 4% in year two, 5% for years 3+. And that achieved a certain total 5-year level of fee income. With a 60-40 split, 60% coming from non-alcohol, those rates to keep us whole at that total level need to go up. And the adjustment is that they need to go up 67%, 66.66% in order to keep us whole. Now, the roundest numbers we can get to for that are 5% in year one, 6.7% in year two, and 8.4% years 3 onward. Now, that would be my proposal for the adjustment that we make based on this new definition of gross sales. Any thoughts, concerns?
Joe, we had budgeted. We said we'd do 500K in total food and beverage revenue in the first year. Did we make assumptions for years 2 and years 3 through 5 on total F&B revenue? You must have done, I think, right?
We actually did not make any assumptions. They were provided to us as kind of a pro forma.
Right.
But yes,
Right.
we have assumptions for each subsequent year.
So we will be use those same assumptions that we were given to come up with these percentages then, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, can I ask a question?
Mhm.
I mean, we'll assume that at this point, but then after our year review, we would possibly assume something different based on the information that we get.
Correct. So this will be the operating model going forward. I think it's my approach here is it's best to have rates written down based on real calculated assumptions. Hard assumptions and real calculations. And then you can go and say, well, those assumptions aren't bearing out. 60-40 isn't bearing out. It's 80-20, and therefore it's kind of maybe too rich on our side, or it's 20-80, and this place is basically just a bar, and we're losing out on a ton of revenue, right? Again, we don't know the future. These are just planning for contingencies. But to have a percentage written down and you know exactly where it came from makes the conversation that would happen in November much easier because you can't debate each other, you can debate the assumptions. And you can say, well, these are the new numbers that would be implied by the new assumptions that we're putting in.
Got it.
Okay.
Any other thoughts or questions? I think those are really the two things that were in my mind to come to agreement on, and the only changes in the agreement to adapt to this this news.
I just have one question. Will all these changes affect the ability to get the liquor license for April 1st?
Well, Marshall told me that this language is the only thing preventing the permit from being handed to him. So he's under the impression that once we deliver a signed agreement with these amendments excluding liquor, the percentages won't matter to them. As long as the language excludes liquor, he can be handed the license.
Thanks.
Good news.
So I just did some calculations at the back of an envelope. And so just so the committee understands that $500,000 the first year, and if we did $600,000 in the second year, and I don't know what the number is, and if they did $700,000 in the third year, in years 3 through 5, I don't know, obviously, yeah, no, actually, those calculations are wrong because it's a 60-40 split, so the numbers go down. So forget what I said. I was thinking on total revenue, Joe, and in which case we were making out like bandits, but we're
Yes,
not,
right.
because it's only 60%, not 100%. Got
Yes, and I know that the other party, Odin's, is very aware that these rates are going up.
Yeah.
And you know, I want to be very transparent with them when we present this to them, that they're literally only going up by the adjustment, right? By the amount to compensate for the adjustment on which revenue we're entitled to the license, the variable license fee on.
Yep.
I have another question or something I was thinking about. In one of their emails that he wrote to us, he was talking about, you know, like 6 months would be X amount of dollars, and then the months that would be a different amount would be the slow months. Let's just say they put in March, April. They started November, December, January, February, March, and April, that we would get a different amount of money versus when they were making more money in their busier months. So that is something that I was kind of concerned about because our very, very slowest months are December, January, and February. So I would like to consider not taking a big dip in what they pay out to us, or take that into consideration, because that's when we don't bring in much money. And it would be nice that it sort of gets evened out, not that they would pay their higher percent because they're not bringing in the revenue that they would in the summer and in the fall. But that we would take into consideration that those months are months for us that we need to, you know, be kind of secure in what money we have coming in. If it's possible.
I think that was his question. That was in Ray a different structure, which was a no variable portion, right? That was just a monthly license agreement, fixed, but on a seasonal schedule. And so I think that the need for that as a branch to them goes away when we have this mixed model. Now, addressing our slow months, I would like to say that that's a concern of the past. I don't know if our revenue will always be as robust as it is right now, but our planning is far more robust than it was in the years when we were dipping into our line of credit.
Mhm.
And so I don't think that is something that I'm as worried about at this point.
The other side of the coin, and I agree, Joe, we still will be getting our 2000 in years 2 through 5, still be getting the $2,000 a month fixed income every month. That'll be coming in. And in year 2, if we do $600,000, we would get 60% of that, which would be $36,000. 36 times the 6.7, 36,000 times the 6.7 brings us, it's not a huge amount of money, to be honest with you. So I'm just not sure. I understand Denise's concern about having enough money during the winter. But just to echo Joe, we obviously we have been okay the last 2 years. That's not to say we will be moving forward, but it may not be as much of an issue as it was a few years ago.
But
Denise, does that address your concern, or does it remain? Do you still want to debate?
just a point, and I'll just say this. I mean, they're going to be paying this quarterly, as I understand it. So the quarters that are slow in sales, they're going to pay much less. So the way the quarterly thing is set up in terms of payments, I think addresses the issue of slow times when they're not that much revenue.
Well, just when I had a conversation with Mark just last week, and he was kind of just talking about how he was just kind of, it was very flat. He was just kind of squeaking by. He knows he doesn't have to touch anything, but it was just a point of timing and a little bit of concern that he kind of felt that we were going through for February. So, I mean, that's a concern all the time, but I think we're much better off for sure because of the money that we have taken out and put it in other accounts, which are investment accounts.
Right.
So we do have plenty of backup, and we also have the reserve that he keeps too. But he was just concerned for a bit. So
yeah. Okay, so just to round that out, that's not something that I think we need to put in here. I'm also not sure they would agree to trying to bolster our expenses by charging them more when they're not doing any business. That might be a poison pill for the whole thing. I don't think I would agree to it from their side.
okay.
This is Robert. I think that when we do have that review, we can look back and there's a history. I think we'll have more knowledge of, if that flexibility even exists. Because I'm like you, I wouldn't readily agree to that, but I understand the concept, but I think with some time, and looking at what they do, I think will be, well, just have more information. And so I agree with you right now that we go forward and with the changes that we've talked about.
Okay. Shall we go for a motion? Or is there more to debate? Any other questions or comments are really welcome.
No, I think as I look over this quarterly payment thing, we're gonna have a half a year of sales to evaluate by the first time we have that review in November. And after that, we'll have a full year each time. I think I'll go back to what I said earlier. And if November are the 2 quarters that are in the winter months, they're gonna be less, they'll be paying less. I think that addresses the issue of the financial concern when they're not doing. So I'm fine making a motion to accept the language as Randy gave in terms of the annual meeting and the percentages that Joe gave to us.
Those
Why
percentages
don't I,
being, oh, go ahead, Randy.
yeah, I'll prepare, if you don't, just want to give you the wording, I think, of what you're making a motion to approve the chairman to execute a amended license agreement with Odeen's, amending paragraph 3 and Schedule B as discussed.
Thank you, Randy.
Don't you mean Schedule A, Randy?
Yeah, Schedule A, sorry. It's so dark in here. I turned on a light and it's still dark.
So I will make a motion as just stated by Randy. Do I have a second?
Second,
And let's do a voice vote. Just note approval by saying yay, rejection by saying nay, or abstain. And I'll call out names. Alan Dutton,
Hey,
Rich Dellinger,
Aye.
Denise Brown,
Aye.
TJ Trimboli,
Yeah, I agree. Sorry.
thanks. Robert Stowers,
aye.
and I vote aye. So that is unanimous, 6 people voting, and so that motion carries. And I'll sign it as soon as I get it.
And I will circulate it through Jim in the morning. So first thing in the morning, these things will be there. You guys, you double check it. If you see anything that's not right, you just call me.
Okay.
I'm gonna put it in Word format, so if you see something simple that you can change. Like if I somehow type 8.5% instead of 8.4, and it's a Word document, you can change it.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it to you to communicate these directly to Marshall Odeen or whoever for Odeen's, so that they can execute it and take it over.
Sure.
Get their permit.
Sounds great.
so Joe, how do you suggest that we approach this with Marshall as far as we have obviously the new information, the new document, we need to get it to him? Do we sit down? Do we just send it to him? Will you send it to him? How will we communicate this, do you think is the best way to do it?
Well, I think it's all in line with the communication, the discussions that we've been having.
Yeah.
So, Jim, if you're comfortable, I think we pass it over to them and just saying, this addresses the concern of the liquor authority per all of our discussions, with an adjustment to the variable license fee. And we just, pass it off to them and say, basically it's executed on our side, and have them execute.
I'm completely comfortable with that, yes.
Okay. Alan, do you think that's
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. And if
Okay.
and if
Yeah,
there's
I don't
any
think it needs to
pushback-
be more complex than that.
if there is any pushback, then I'm happy to get involved at that point, if there is any.
Okay, that'll be helpful.
I just
Great.
have one other Question, I'm sorry, I don't think I just have one other question, is, I guess for Jim, is the halfway house open? Are they still, serving, or are they waiting for this to be signed?
The halfway house is open.
So regardless of this stuff, they've been serving as they agreed they would, or they said they would, starting April during April.
They've been
Just
open
not-
since April 1st, except for the days of rain last week. They've been open.
Thanks.
That was bad. Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Then I'm sorry to tell Jen you missed it. We already voted.
I am so sorry.
That's okay. It's a
Okay.
testament to our efficiency that we were done already. Only thing left is motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
All right, I'll second. Any opposed?
Nope.
Thanks, everybody. Always a
Good
pleasure.
night.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Right?
Thanks,
Okay.
guys.
Cheers.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Randy.
Thanks, Randy.
Yeah, thank you, Randy. Tons of help.